Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown!
Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday. It is February 22. Hope you're having a good day. We've reached the midway point. Welcome aboard. Like I said, powered by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda. Make sure you go to andymorehonda.com. Get more to your door with Andy Moore Honda. Also, Endeavor Hospitality and their wealth of family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market, your local meat shop, steakhouse, and caterer, no matter where you live. Located on South College in Bloomington. BB's opens every day at 6 a.m. They have the best in custom meats, in-house made products, and the best of everything you can imagine in that regard. Stop in. Welcome aboard. How you doing? On the program today, Kyle Neddenriep will be joining us. Staley from thehoosier.com as well. We're going to hear from Mike Woodson, Trey Galloway, Tom Izzo. Of course, Indiana went on the road last night. We'll be talking about that, amongst a lot of other things. Indiana women's basketball, Big Ten champions. Congratulations to Terry Morin and that entire group. They are outright Big Ten champions before they have to go to play at Iowa this weekend, because Iowa got the absolute ever-loving dog crap kicked out of them yesterday. And I mean a beat down. And I wish I should have had you try to find this clip, but they showed a clip of with 10 minutes to go, and Maryland was already just slobber knocking Iowa. But in the timeout, Maryland's coach says, we're not close. We're not close. With 10 minutes to go, we're not close from what they did to us down there. Oh, memories, they don't fade, baby. So little payback yesterday from Maryland. And don't forget, the Big Ten, it's got to be the toughest conference in women's basketball, without question. You've got 3 teams in the top 7, for God's sake. Well, they did. Iowa's going to drop out. And that's not going to affect India, other than I think Indiana will probably end up playing Iowa in the Big Ten tournament. To pull those standings up, but them playing in second. But what a beatdown! I was trying to get the final score, make sure 96-68. Iowa gets beat 96-68. Let me say that again. I mean, after the first quarter, it was a 1-point game. Then Maryland just goes on a 27-8 run and put it away, and that was it from there. At the half, I think that Caitlin Clark might have had 8 points. She had finished with 18, average is 30. So not a great day for her. Let's see, what was Caitlin Clark? She finished with 18 points. I can't separate it on this one, but she was 5 of 13 from the field.
Yep. So how do we think this will affect the matchup in Iowa City for Indiana? Obviously, Iowa's not going to have a chance to win the Big Ten title, but they'll still probably want to get revenge on the Hoosiers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's going to be it's a home game. It's the last home game. There'll be seniors, I'm sure, maybe. So it'll be a senior day festivity. You've got Indiana coming in. And you know what else I was thinking? Do you realize this Indiana team would have been ranked number 1 in the country long ago, had South Carolina probably not, if they were not playing in the SEC. I believe the SEC has 2 ranked women's teams, period, in all of the top 25, while the Big Ten has 3 in the top 7. Big difference in competition here, people. South Carolina nearly lost to Ole Miss the other day. So it's sad. It's a shame because this team would have been ranked number 1. And I'll go a little further. Had they not had the injury to Grace Berger, the only game that they did lose to Michigan State, maybe they would be number 1 right now regardless. I think people would give them that shot. They did receive a first place vote, and it was not from a local writer. It was from some, I forget where.
Someone from North Carolina, I saw.
Is that where it was from? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting, though. It does give them something extra to play for because that means there's still doubters out there that still think that South Carolina can't be beaten. And they're going to keep trying to earn their way to that top, even if it has to wait all the way until they play in the national championship game.
I think it's just easy. They're undefeated. They haven't been beaten, so they're like, "Oh, we're not going to."
And they've won a national title before. That's the other thing. South Carolina has won the whole thing. Yeah, aren't they the defending national champion? It's a good question. I don't know. I believe they might be.
I believe they are. But yeah, so that sets up the big grand finale. But it's kind of odd because now Indiana does go to Iowa to play this weekend at a 2:00 game, which is going to be pretty emotional game for Indiana because they want to win this game. They damn sure do not want to lose to Iowa. They would love to finish out with a win over them, and go into the Big Ten tournament, but it doesn't. That's a tough place to win. That's a tough ask to go there and win. Even for this team, I'm telling you, this is going to be. This is not a major upset if they were to get beat there, and it would not affect their seeding. Indiana's a number 1 seed, right? They're the number 2 overall seed right now. So now Big Ten conference standings is Iowa in 3rd still in the women's. That is a question because of how the tournament lays out. That's why the Indiana men, they do not want to drop below the 3 seed. That's something we'll talk about today that they have to be wary of. You drop out of that double bye, that changes everything.
Do you think they have to win at Purdue this weekend to secure that, or do you think that they just need to win their final 2 home games?
Well, I think that the fact that they have those final 2 home games is a major, major plus because they're not going to be expected to win at Purdue, number 1. Let's see. And the ironic thing is Ken Pom had them finishing the season at 12-8.
In the Big Ten? What are they at right now?
10-7.
Look at that. That lines up perfectly if it plays out that way.
He has them nailed right on that. And if that is the case, they'll be fine. They are currently a half game ahead of, holy crap, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. There's 6 teams still stacked right behind them by half a game.
But that just shows you can't screw this up because you could fall from 3rd place to 6th place in a heartbeat.
No, that was a big benefit for Michigan State. It really that win last night really helped solidify them. Penn State's on the bubble, man. They're actually out right now. They'll have to work their way back in. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams from the Big Ten going right now, in my opinion. Last night we'll talk more about this later when Kyler joins us as well, but in the next segment. But we'll talk more about the men. That game is they didn't show up defensively. They started out well, but the defense went awry, and but the numbers are shocking. But yeah, they'll be fine for the bye. I'd like to see what the. I'm just curious on making sure of where the women's standings. As far as Indiana, of course they're going to be the number one the overall number one seed in the Big Ten without question. But I'm curious on who is Iowa falling? Is there anybody that can catch Iowa in the fourth spot? Because that makes a difference on who you're playing.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look here. Ohio State sitting in fourth right now, but they're 2 games behind Iowa for third place.
I've got Ohio State in second.
Are you looking at, maybe I'm not looking at the updated standings, but I thought I was.
Yeah, I've got Indiana at 16-1.
Yep, I have that.
Okay,
Maryland
Ohio State
and
is
Iowa
12-5.
Wait, well, you have Ohio State as 12-5. That so do I, but that puts them at fourth because Maryland and Iowa are 14-3.
I don't know why that they've got them listed in second place on this, but they do.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Who
that's
knows?
going to be well, the reason it matters is Ohio State. Yeah, they're going to be a fly in the ointment. Indiana has just pounded them. There is a gigantic difference between Indiana, Maryland, Iowa, and then Ohio State and Michigan, who are also ranked. But that fourth slot is that's a walk to the. If I would much prefer to see for Indiana, much prefer to see Ohio State in that fourth slot than either Maryland or Iowa. Although I think Indiana handles Iowa, but it's going to be interesting. We'll see.
It will be interesting. Then we can take our first break here in a second. But I mean, Indiana doesn't have to beat Iowa on the road now. I'm not saying they're not going to try to win because obviously they're going to. But that
they don't have to beat them. They never had to beat them.
sense of urgency isn't necessarily going to be there because they know they've already won the outright Big Ten title.
Well, the pressure won't be there. Maybe that will allow them to relax and just play, man. Now they can just play. You don't have the pressure. You can just go out and get it.
That's true.
All right, we've got a break coming up. Another big program coming up. We're going to hear from Mike Woodson. We'll hear from Trey Galloway, Tom Izzo. Kyle Neddenriep will join us later. Kyler Staley as well. Plenty more. Thanks a lot for joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Big shout out to our region rats listening up on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM. Hope everybody up in the region in Chicago area is having a great day. Our peeps down on the River Rats listening on 97.7 The Ref, ESPN, always the right call. 89.9 WBRO Marengo as well. And all of you on YouTube, hit the subscribe and like button. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All
right. If you want, you can hit the Woodson clips here or any of the other clips because we won't have Kyler until 9:10. But you don't have to do that either yet unless you just want to.
If you want, you can skip the Elephant Road.
I don't sound like that, but I wish I did, right? Follow the yellow brick road. Follow. Hope you guys like that on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. What's being talked about on the Andy Moore Honda hotline? I haven't checked it out yet this morning. Kevin Bratcher says Charlie Miller did a great job on the Hoosier cast. Good stuff. Jamie coming in from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Man, we've had a lot of comments this morning. I've missed them all. Jason says, I heard Jay Billis say that Kopp is the best shooter in the Big Ten and he only gets 3 shots. I think there's an issue with guys not wanting to pass to him, especially Hood Schifino. Excuse me. 1 minute, Jimbo. All right, here we go. 25 seconds.
Variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday. We've reached the halfway point. And it's the last Wednesday of... No, it's not the last Wednesday of February, is it? Not quite there. Let's see. Very emotional time last night, of course, up in Michigan State. That was their first home game since the mass shooting that took place there. And I don't know that impacted the game. I'll be honest with you. I know that there may be a lot of emotion in that building, but that didn't seem to have any impact on why Indiana played the way they played. So I just don't see the connection personally. And if you've played sports, at least to the high school level, you know that at least once the ball drops, the ball tips, it's kicked off, all that stuff, it kind of gets lost. You cannot focus on any game that you're participating in and have the outside. It's just I've never been able to do that, or I was not able to do that. It was so I just don't know. I don't think that it had anything to do with Indiana. Now, was Maryland Michigan State a little fired up? Well, yeah. Did that make them shoot threes better? I don't know, but they damn well did. But here's some funny number, not funny, but what if I told you Indiana would go to Michigan State and shoot 48% from the field, 37% from behind the three-point line, and 75% from the free throw line? You'd probably feel pretty good. You'd probably feel pretty good about your chances. Unfortunately, that three-point field goal percentage, while good, and this has been the case for Indiana most of the season. They've been more about being efficient with the three, hitting 5 of 12, 6 of 14, something like that, which was the case last night. But Michigan State jacked up 21 and hit 10 of them. Well, when you double somebody on 3-point shots, that's an extra 5. That's 15 points right there alone. So you just can't let guys stand out there and, man, they were just knocking down shots. Some of them were well defended, but there were too many open looks for Michigan State last night. And they obliged. They knocked them down. They put up 21 3-point shots, hit 10 of them, like I said, 48%. It's hard to beat a team hitting 48% behind the arc when they're putting up 23s. But it wasn't just that. While Indiana was 75% at the free throw line, hitting 12 of 16, Michigan State was 95%. They missed one free throw. They hit more free throws than Indiana attempted. So it doesn't take long to find the answers to that. And again, it comes down to defense. Offensive rebounds, they destroyed Indiana. What was it? Final tally like 10-3? But it was the points off of the second chance points that they were getting. You just take all of that in totality. There's the ball game. That and no help for Trace Jackson Davis. Jalen Hood-Schifino, of course, has become pretty damn solid. His consistency is really the thing that this team can't do without. As a matter of fact, Woody had to take him out in the first half. That's your point guard. I mean, yeah, I know Trey Galloway's the backup. You don't really have a backup. You don't have a point guard that can continue doing the things that either he or X does. And that's where Indiana is getting in trouble right now without having, that's another thing, not having Xavier. Besides the defense, besides his offensive output, it's being able to always have two solid point guards to be able to be in the game. And there's nothing that's wrong with Trey Galloway. He's just not that guy that's going to score much. What did he end up with last night? I think he had 11. But a lot of that came early on. This is a different. I'm not used to these. But it doesn't matter. Again, Miller Kopp, not there. Somebody has to show up always, or this team cannot win. I mean, you're going to beat some teams with just the Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis show, but you're not going to go far. And this is a team that I think that can truly win the Big Ten tournament if they play to their capabilities. And that doesn't mean showing up when you want to show up. Trey Galloway met with the media last night after the game, and it kind of sounds a little like same old, same old. I don't want to, I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be negative, but it's almost March. Language sounds a little the same. Roller, John.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the rebounding, they out-rebounded us, and I know when they're at home, they out-rebound their opponents. They win. So I think we just got out tough for the most part. We played pretty solid for the first couple minutes, and then after that, they just take it to another gear, and then, like I said, just got out tough. So we got to fix some things up. Got to be able to win on the road.
Got out tough. Got to fix some things. Late in the year to be hearing that. That kind of, doesn't that sound like what we were hearing at the beginning, at that break when this all kind of changed there at the start of the year?
It almost just sounds like their go-to whenever they just don't win a game and they have nothing else to say. They just want to say, well, we got to fix things.
Well, that's the truth. But the thing that bothers me is that tells me that you don't know what's wrong. I want to know. My question I would like to know is, okay, why did you get out toughed on February 21st?
Yep.
Why are you getting out tough February 21st? But I know this was it was an emotional game for Michigan State, but again, I just did not see that having an impact. I didn't see that on the court. I didn't see them doing anything spectacular other than hitting freaking shots and rebounding and just beating Indiana to the spots. That's the thing. They were beating Indiana to spots. That's just effort. And that's why you saw Mike Woodson call multiple timeouts. He was not happy, as he shouldn't have been. That's the only thing that bothers me about this team when it's this late in the year and you're still having games like this, man. I mean, getting beat would not have been an issue. John W. says, not good to get out-roughed this time of year. Exactly what I'm saying. You've got to have your game face on, as old Coach Bob Knight would like to say. It's that time, man. It's go time. You've got 3 games left in the conference. As a matter of fact, one of those games is against your arch rival who wants to kick the ever-loving crap out of you this Saturday. Do you think Purdue does not want to beat Indiana like a Cupid doll? Just bap, 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 bap. Hell yes, they do. That was embarrassing to them to lose to Indiana. So where are you going to get the toughness for that game? If you think it was rough at Michigan State, wait till Saturday at West Lafayette. Things will get hot and heated. They do have 2 road games after that to fall back on, which, like I said, they're going to be fine. They're going to end up with a double bye. And fortunately, I think they're going to maintain that third place slot, which is where you want them, where you want them, because that puts them on the opposite side of the bracket in the Big Ten tournament from Purdue, which will allow the Indiana Purdue championship game, which I am predicting. And we'll see how that turns out. But how about that? Too bad that game will not be in Indianapolis. It'll be in Chicago at the United Center. But like I said yesterday, that wouldn't matter. That place would be jacked, stacked, and packed with nothing but red and black. Ooh, I just made a run there, John Boy.
That may be one of the best rhymes you've ever come up with. Can you even repeat that? What was that? It was jacked, stacked, and packed.
Jacked, stacked,
red
packed,
and black.
With nothing but red and black.
Listening to Back in Black.
Oh,
right?
There you go.
Add a little bonus to it.
Yeah. That would be perfect. I'm trying to decide if we need to. Tom Izzo, speaking of last night's emotional game, before the game started, Indiana, the team, if you watched the game, you saw they were wearing Spartan Strong shirts. It was very, very a great gesture by Indiana. The conference really comes together in instances like this, and everybody does. Who doesn't? it was good to see that. And then Tom Izzo acknowledging that afterwards. Let's hear what he had to say.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mike Woodson in Indiana. You know, it's when you have an event like this, and you drag on the pregame a little bit, and you know he wore his shirt and everything his team did, and I greatly appreciate it. He sent me a text when it all happened, but to answer the call like he did, and then weather through that, you know, a little bit of a longer pregame was classy on his part, and yet maybe it helped them a little bit because they sure did get off to a better start than we did. I thought it was one of the poorest performances for 13 minutes, 14 minutes. We just seemed like offensively we didn't move the ball, we didn't do much.
Yeah, that's where it ended for Indiana, unfortunately. But that was Tom Izzo with some nice words for Indiana, Mike Woodson, and the program for helping them share in their grief. And that is a horrible, horrible situation. And I hate to see that happening with anyone. And not a great segue, John, but kind of along that line, Alabama has an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama has a serious issue, and Nate Oates is failing. Alabama star player Brandon Miller, first of all, was Darius Miles, is a former Alabama player, no longer.
Yes, he was the one who
shot and killed a 23-year-old woman.
Correct. Yes.
Allegedly shot and killed a 23-year-old woman. Well, he had texted Brandon Miller to bring the gun used in the murder to the scene that the murder was committed at, and he did. Brandon Miller is the star player of Alabama right now and is still playing. Not charged with any crime, and as of right now, I don't know that he will be, because the last I heard was that we don't know what we could charge him with. Well,
what about the fact that, I mean, I'm not a legal person. I know you're not either.
But I don't care about that.
Okay.
I don't even care about that, because if Nate Oates in Alabama had the slightest bit of human decency, why in the F is this kid still playing for your university? He took a firearm to the scene of a murder. I don't care. You got to sort that out later. This kid does not keep playing. But you know what? Alabama's in the middle of a season like no other. They're standing on the precipice of being a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. This guy, Brandon Miller, is a projected NBA draft pick. I do not understand how Alabama continues to allow him to play without even any kind of an investigation, of any kind of we gotta check this out. You need to sit down. Oh, hell no. It's March, people. Almost. They're not. That ain't happening. And then Nate Oates' comments, some of the comments he made regarding it, just to show how out of touch they are. Let's see. Can't control what happens outside of practice. That was a nice one.
It's not good.
And then he just simply said, oh, he was in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
What the hell does that mean?
It's dumb. He received a text and took it. It is what it is. Hey, you know what? We can get back to that later. But Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com is going to join us. We'll get caught up on what happened last night and what is coming up for Indiana. On the basketball court, And don't forget about Go Teen, part of the Endeavor Hospitality, a WOW network. Go Teen is for those on the go, whether it's you, your team, kids. It's hard to find fresh, tasty food that's convenient to eat on the fly. Go Teen was created for go-getters just like you, full of fresh, healthy ingredients, and each recipe contains high-quality protein powder. And they come in multiple, incredible, great flavors, and that's true. GoTeenBites.com, or you can go to BB's and pick them up. Back with more Indiana Sports Speed Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal.
What's up?
What's up, Kyler? Thanks for being flexible with us this week again.
No problem. Not a problem. Who did I get bumped for?
Well, we just traded because Kravitz couldn't come on, period, and then Rick Bozich asked to trade, and so Rick took your spot on Thursday.
Gotcha. No problem. No Dustin today?
No, he's off from us today.
That was another thing, man. We got killed today. It was like,
he's
man.
completely obliterated.
People left looking at my ugly mug.
He's on assignment, right, Dustin?
That's right. On assignment.
Right. On assignment. Y'all don't know where I got that from, do you?
It's from the new TV news.
Yeah.
That's all they would ever say, and it would crack me up. It would just, even as when I was in high school, after a while, I'm like going, all right, they're not on a damn assignment. They're on vacation. Who are you kidding?
Hey, when I start going to AAU tournaments this summer on the weekends, just start telling people that I'm on assignment to wherever I'm at.
But see, that doesn't work because it's actually true.
Well, I guess
on vacation last summer, I checked into the show just because I was curious how it was going on, and I heard Jim say that I was on assignment too. I thought it was pretty funny.
Kyler's on assignment in Phoenix, Arizona for EYBL.
Hey, that covers everything. And from now on, I'm going to be on assignment when I am not here.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Oh, wow. Oh, Chef JD. Too soon.
Jeez.
Too soon. Oh.
Jeez.
Oh. That's I mean, pretty. Is it too soon? Because it's pretty funny.
Absolutely. Considering new information came out yesterday. Yeah, that's really soon.
Hey, Pat from Charleston. My neck of the nape, neck of the web, neck of the nape. See, that's from Caddyshack. That's not a screw. That's a purpose screw up. I didn't know you were from this neck of the nape of the neck of the woods.
All right, here we go, guys.
Extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast, Market, and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. I just wanted to let Kyler and his flute come flying out of there. I could tell it was.
Sorry, I'll put that down.
I could tell it was coming. I could just feel it. It was like a John Tesh moment.
The jazz flute from Anchorman. You ever seen that?
Yeah. That's I could just. I've never heard that intro, but I could just tell it was coming. You knew somebody was getting ready to bust something out, baby, and it wasn't going to be a saxophone. Welcome aboard, Kyler Staley from the Hoosier.com. Indiana Rivals, where you can get the latest in all news and recruiting information for your Indiana Hoosiers. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com and subscribe. Keep local content going. Kyler, were you up? You didn't go up last night, were you? You guys
Nope.
up there? I know that Keegan and Mason or
Kevin.
it was Keegan and Kevin are up there.
Yep.
But this was a game that Michigan State needed. Forget about the emotion. I'm taking that out of this right now. This was a game Michigan State needed because they've been hovering at the bottom of not the standings, but hovering around the bottom of getting into the tournament. They've been flirting with that, starting to flirt with that line. This kind of puts them, they're in, I think. They would have to fall off the planet now to not be in. So great win for Michigan State. Not a debilitating loss for Indiana. It will knock them off. They surprised a lot of people by being in the top 16 seeds, first of all, having a top 4 seed. That's going to knock them off of this 4 line without question. They have the opportunity to get back there by beating Purdue, or they have 2 home games after that, which I think that if they lose to Purdue, they're going to be on a 2-game losing streak, and that'll kick them down. Then they win 2 straight. You don't recover. They're not going to recover the losses from the 2 wins. They will drop further than they regain. Like after the next 2, let's say they won those last 2 games, they will not be back up to 14th, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, like, this is probably your Indiana staring at the possibility of having a multi-game losing streak since the first time in early January. It's a rough week for them. They pretty much had everything going against them yesterday, with the emotions, the fact, like you mentioned, Michigan State was desperate for a win. And I think the win over Indiana got them firmly in the tournament. They would have to really struggle through the last few games to get out of the tournament at that point. But I mean, one of the better first 10 or 11, minutes of play that Indiana has played this year, I thought, especially
on the road. Yeah.
They were cool, calm, collected on the defensive end. They were disciplined. Their defense was traveling. And then, it felt like just someone took a needle and popped all the air out of a balloon. Michigan State started making shots.
His name was, I was going to say someone did, and his name was
Tyson Walker.
Mr.
Right?
Walker.
Yeah. So they just started hitting shots. This is really the first time that I can remember in a long time that Indiana got punched and that they didn't throw a punch back. It was just, Indiana couldn't recover. That final 3 minutes of the first half was big. Well, I mean, Indiana was down 6 going into the half. You thought that they would make some adjustments. They didn't. Michigan State pretty much controlled that whole second half. I think the closest Indiana got, the lead back down was like 8. But, I mean, it just never felt like Indiana was back in the game. The defensive end, I don't think they did they obviously didn't do a good job guarding their Michigan State's guards. Tyson Walker, AJ Holgard went off. I think it was like 23, 22 points for both of them. It's just one of those games where you really are starting to realize how desperate Indiana needs Xavier Johnson back, for these situations. I'm not saying that he was going to be a game changer on that game yesterday, but, as far as guard defense, perimeter defense, things like that, somebody that can slow Tyson Walker down.
Not just that, when Jalen Hood-Schifino, he had to exit the game with those 2 first half fouls, that puts Indiana at a huge disadvantage. Nothing against Trey Galloway, but he's not up there to where that offense can run that prolifically with him at point guard for much of a long stretch. And things started to go downhill. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying things went downhill mainly because Michigan State was just killing him on 3-point shooting. But
yeah, and then you also got to look at Tyson Walker. He did hit a few of those threes. I don't know how many threes he had, 5 or 6, something like that. He hit a few of those threes, late in the shot clock. So he made some tough shots. You got to give him to that. But yeah, like you mentioned, Jalen Hood-Schifino being on the bench really hurts Indiana. It takes away another offensive option for them because really, Trey Galloway's not that shot creator. He's not that playmaker. it limits Indiana's offense to what, Indiana's offense is already limited to, a lot of Jalen Hutchefino, Trace Jackson Davis. That's about it. Then you take Jalen Hutchefino, who goes on the bench and sits for an extended period of time. It's just Trace. And obviously Indiana couldn't get anything going. But just the loss there. The emotions were running high. Michigan State, I felt like going into this game, it was going to be really hard for Indiana to even, win this game. I didn't expect Indiana to get beat by 15 points, but it's hard to win at Michigan State, especially under those circumstances.
Indiana has won there twice in the last 26 attempts, I believe now.
I think the last time they won was the Romeo Langford team at Michigan State.
They're just, like I said, they've won 2 times out of their last 26 tries there. Yep. So that's another, that would be the next deal that needs to be streak that needs to be gone away with, but that's for later. Indiana now has to look forward because they have yet their sternest test of the season now, as they will travel to West Lafayette to take on a Purdue team that they beat. So you've got a pissed off Purdue team because they're not going to want Indiana to come into Mackey and have any success whatsoever. And the fans are going to jump on Indiana 20 minutes before the game starts, and they're going to be on them 20 minutes after the game's over. So Indiana has to be ready mentally, period. Maybe they should play with earplugs or something. I don't know, but they're going to have to be ready because this is going to be an onslaught as far as noise and all of that.
Yeah, no, Indiana, you mentioned it. Indiana's got to treat this like a rivalry game. They have to. Purdue treated it like a rivalry game. They kept it close with Indiana for the majority of that game. Indiana's got to come in prepared. I know there's, like I mentioned earlier, they're staring at the possibility of losing back-to-back games. It's something that they haven't done since early January. This would be a major, major bounce back win if Indiana can somehow get it done. But they're going to have to play nearly perfect. I look at the turnovers. I don't think this is being talked enough. Indiana's got a major turnover problem right now. I don't know what they're averaging on the season, but they are really careless with the ball, and not a lot of times, those turnovers turn into points. Indiana's transition defense is pretty solid for that points, but you're losing opportunities on the offensive end when you turn the ball over, obviously. So Indiana's got to limit that. I wouldn't expect Xavier Johnson to play at Purdue. So we can just kind of, throw that out the window. But Indiana's got to play nearly perfect if they want to get this road win. They're going to have to pressure Zach Edey, like they did at Assembly Hall. They're just going to have to play, almost the exact same way that they did when Purdue came into town, a few weeks ago. It's going to be a tough one. I don't think people are giving Indiana a lot of hope here, but if Indiana can treat it like a rivalry game, if they can play up to how they should be playing, with intensity and, on the defensive end, and, hopefully some shots fall and make it a game, but it's going to be a tough one. Not a lot of hope for Indiana going into that one.
And they don't have to win that game, and no one's going to expect them to win that game. They're not going to be picked by Vegas to win that game. As a matter of fact, they're not going to be picked by anyone to win that game other than some IU fans. But they have to play. They have to come to play. They can't get beat like the Iowa women got beat last night at Maryland. That was just a total beatdown by a team that is really good. But I'm using that as an example of shows you as, man, when it's not your night and it's somebody else's night, holy hell, things can get bad. So Indiana has to come in with unbelievable determination no matter what, and they have to stay the course. I don't want to use this word quit, but it seemed like that they kind of just relinquished their thoughts that they could win the game last night at some point. I don't. Is there a better way of saying that? Am I wrong? Is it just me that saw that? I just felt that they had kind of relinquished too much to where they could win.
It got down to the last 5 minutes when I started to really notice that, especially when Mike Woodson pulled Trace Jackson Davis around 3 minutes left to go in the game, and he inserted the freshman and Anthony Leal. I mean, he just knew. I mean, that's not a
And
bad
poor
thing.
Anthony Leal, gosh dang, Trace Jackson Davis takes a Nolan Ryan fastball and hurls it across the court, and it flies through Anthony's hands and back out of the game he went.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I was mentioning, I think Mike Woodson just realized that, let's get those freshmen some minutes. Let's get Anthony Leal some minutes there. It's just one of those things where it's just like, it doesn't hurt Indiana to, get a few extra minutes of rest there. There's no reason for Trace Jackson Davis to continue to finish out the game. Really no reason for any of the starters. Let's just rest. Let's just cut our losses and let's just move on. But
that's the first. We haven't seen that this year.
No, we haven't.
That.
No, because like I said, usually this is really the first time that, in a long time that I feel like Indiana's gotten punched and they haven't punched back. That punches never came at all last night. And another thing that I wanted to bring up is the bench points. Throw away the garbage points by CJ Gunn and Anthony Leal towards the end of the game. Malik Renew, who's definitely a part of the rotation, was the only player to score on the bench. On the road.
And that's 2 whopping points.
2 whopping points. That's no way that can happen. I don't know what's happened with Tamar Bates. I don't know where he's gone or whatever, but I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to. He's almost becoming a liability on the floor in a way because he's not providing anything. So, his whole career in Indiana has been inconsistency. It's not even inconsistency anymore. It's just not there anymore. So I know he's going to have to wake up because he was primed to be Indiana's leading scorer off the bench. And without him, Indiana's going to really struggle. You got to have bench scorers. And, last night showed that if you don't have a bench that's scoring, you're not going to win games.
Well, I'm going to give Miller Kopp a little reprieve because I think Tamar Bates and his lack of play and people in that position are affecting him. Miller Kopp, 6 points last night, only 3 shots again, all 3-pointers. He hit 2 of them. Indiana needed more of that. Yep. You can't beat a team that is hitting 10 threes when you're hitting 5 because those points just keep aggregating up. But Miller Kopp is playing. He fouled out because he was playing his ass off on defense. But not having that third option, it's kind of hard to be the third option when you're kind of one of the main defenders at certain areas, which he has been. But you've got to have that other guy to loosen Miller Kopp up. And so this team they're not at all where they need to be right now. And that game, I don't know, that causes some concern to me for them, their ability, how far they can go. I'm like, yeah, they're still
still got to figure out some things, right? Like they said.
Well, it's not just that they don't have the weapons to go as far as fans think that they should go. Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hood-Schifino, great, but it cannot be those two because I promise you might get through the first and second rounds in the NCAA tournament, but when you start playing the third, especially if you're lucky enough to get to the 4th round, you're playing big time teams that play defense. You're gonna draw a Big 12 team, and let me tell you, all those guys have done all season is have a fist fight every game. And I don't mean that literally. I just mean their games are defensively tough and they are battle tested. If you don't think so, if you pay attention to quad 1 wins, right now the number 1 team in the country is Houston. Their quad 1 record is 4-1. Kansas has more quad 1 losses than Houston has wins, but that's because they also have 16 quad 1 wins to go with those 6 losses. Virtually every game they play is a quad 1 game. That's why I like these Big 12 teams. I just think that they're going to be battle tested. They're going to be tough, but that's why you have to be tough, and you cannot be tough this game and not tough the next game.
Yeah, I agree. And to your point about Indiana not having the weapons, me personally, I think they have the weapons. It's all about utilizing them at the end of the day. like you mentioned, Miller Kopp had 2 threes, or he hit 2 threes, had 6 points or whatever, shot 3 of them, I think. Trace Jackson Davis early on in the game was double teamed, and he immediately found Miller Kopp. My thing is just like, why not continue to do that? Why not to continue to get him looks like that?
You know
Why
what?
go away with that?
There was
That's a frustrating part on Indiana's offense. It's just like they forgot, they got short-term memory loss. Like, okay, that worked. I threw Miller Kopp the ball. I got him an open look. Let's try to go back to that. Now I would have to go back and watch the game. Maybe Michigan State, kind of, zoned in on Miller Kopp a little bit more after that.
Well, I remember a specific time, TJD near the basket, I think he was at least double teamed, and Miller Kopp was in the corner, and I think his hands were up, flashing. Never even got the look. Shot was missed or blocked or whatever happened, and the other way they go. So, yeah, they're not. This offense is not one that is set up to have. It just seems like it does not have secondary and third dairy.
There's not a lot of ball movement.
It's one. It's either this or back to this.
Yep.
It's either this is Trace Jackson Davis, back to Jalen Hood-Schifino. But there's no other movement and looks off of that, which, man, that makes it pretty damn easy for a defense to kind of just settle down.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. There's just not a lot of ball movement. I just don't. I remember one play where I felt Indiana was moving the ball last night. But other than that, like, you're kind of spot on that. It's not like that situation. It's if they don't have anything for Trace Jackson Davis, let's get it back to Jalen Hood-Schifino, let him create. And after that, Indiana's just done. So they got to get a little bit more creative on that end. They can't, Mike Woodson likes to say that they want to ride Trace Jackson Davis. You can't ride him every single offensive possession. You got to get Miller Kopp involved. Trey Galloway's got to cut to the basket a little bit harder. Race Thompson's got to free himself up when Trace Jackson Davis is being double teamed, which he did a little bit last night, and he's starting to do. But Indiana's got to be a little bit more creative on the offensive end. Their defense keeps them in the games. It didn't keep them in the game last night, but it's going to come down to scoring points eventually, especially when you get in a tournament play.
Yeah, because I brought these stats out earlier before I let you go. First of all, Indiana didn't score in the last 3 minutes of the game. But other than that, they outshot Michigan State, 48% to 47%.
I think those were consistent shots. I think that's what it comes down to. They were pretty well thought of shots at the end of the day.
Exactly. And they're efficient. And sometimes they're too efficient. Again, it's built. I don't know if it's built on efficiency or why, but 5 of 14 behind the 3-point line versus 10 of 21. That's a stagger right there. And then, of course, the free throw line, there's not a lot you can do about that other than hit them, but they weren't bad. They were 75%. Unfortunately, Michigan State, 18 of 19 for 95%. They hit more free throws than Indiana took. But the offensive rebounds, we didn't talk about that. Indiana gets crushed on the offensive rebounds.
24 total rebounds is not acceptable when you've got Trace Jackson Davis, Malik Renew, and Race Thompson. That's been a problem for Indiana this year, and I've always said it before, Indiana should never be out-rebounded in a game.
Not by that team, especially.
No.
But those offensive rebounds, 13 second chance points for Michigan State. 13.
Yeah. Just an outstanding number.
It's the difference in a ball game. When you do that, when you hit your free throws, that's how you beat a team that shoots 48% from the field and 75% from the free throw line. That's how you beat a team like that. Up next, this game coming up on Saturday. What do you guys have coming up at Hoosier.com?
So we got a lot of obviously some stories be written about last night. Previews for the Purdue game, obviously another big game, rivalry game. So me personally, I'm getting ready for sectionals next week at high school play. So,
who do you play for?
I play for the Bedford Stars. I got another eligibility. So I'm going to go and play for them. But anyway, getting ready for sectionals, covering all the Indiana targets there. So just getting all that kind of squared up, but a lot of content going to come up.
And you played for the nickname that you do not like, by the way, I believe. Were we not having that conversation?
I think that was off the record. I would never say that. Never say that. Never say that. You can't prove it.
You didn't say that. I got to let you go, brother. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow and go to thehoosier.com. Subscribe for complete coverage on Indiana athletics. Back with Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore. Oh, hello, Mr. Kyle.
Nope, for some reason we're not hearing you.
Well, he's not talking.
No, he said something, or I saw his mouth move at least.
Oh, it's just probably in his settings.
You're going to your settings at the bottom, Kyle, and click on audio, and then see what your microphone tab is on.
StreamYard settings.
Yeah. Your stream. It's on your the StreamYard page that you have open.
Ooh.
If that doesn't work, sometimes
then the old-fashioned
going out
leave
and come back
back
in. Sometimes that's enough to fix it.
Yeah, I agree with this. They did. Why would they not? Freddie, why would they not? I am an accredited member of the Big Ten media.
Let's try this. Anything different? No. I wish.
All right, did you already go into your settings on StreamYard? At the bottom, there's a bar that says mute, stop cam settings. Hit the settings, and that'll bring up that box, and there's the audio on the left, and then just go to the mic and just kind of go through, then test. Make sure you're on the right microphone.
No, keep shifting. I heard something change, but I'm still not hearing you. Also, if that doesn't work, we got about a minute left. You could use that same link that I sent you and join with your phone, if you don't mind doing that for us.
Well, that's a pain in the butt for him, but it's crazy. It may just
I think he's going to try that. So
yeah.
It'll be okay.
Hey, my, rock and roll will never die. Hey, my, rock and roll will never die.
All right, here we go.
Pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Hump Day, February 22nd. From the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Speaking of which, this time of year, you're just so lost. I don't want to pay attention to much. And weather, I can't believe it's going to be so incredibly warm today. Looking forward to that. As we're being joined by Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. And Kyle, it's been so busy here of late. I'm what I do and cover, and I can only imagine you, because we've got the IU women that are just rolling, the men, the college basketball season is coming down to that that time. And of course, the high school season, of course, as everything is already underway. I know you guys had a great piece out the other day of listing all these sectionals and where a lot of these guys, Floyd Badunga versus Lafayette Jeff, Jalen Harrison, Hamilton Southeastern versus Carmel, Alxavier Robinson, North Central, Warren Central, just all these different locations laid out. And you also listed who had the toughest draws of some of these teams. I'll start with Lawrence Central.
Yeah, looking at my computer as I talk to you here on the phone, so hopefully I stay on track here. But yeah, we had a little bit of a story came out today on the toughest draws, and we'll have one tomorrow on some of the better draws that people had, the 10 best, 10 worst. A lot of sectional coverage, but yeah, probably Lawrence Central in sectional 10. They got Warren Central, and then they'll play Cathedral in the semifinal if they win that. Cathedral's defending champs. That's about as tough as it gets. That's always a tough sectional. Greenfield Central, Brebeuf Jesuit, Jennings County, I thought had a pretty tough one. Having to beat a Bedford North Lawrence team that's really been playing well, and then they'd have to see Jeffersonville, who just beat them in that sectional at Seymour. Fishers has a pretty tough one as well. They're in, that's a sectional 8 where you're not going to have there's really no easy draws there at all. But they have their rival HSC in the first game. HSC is a much better team than their record shows. And then they would get Zionsville in the sectional semifinal at sectional 8. So that would be a pretty tough one as well. But like I said, there's really not an easy one there. But yeah, several others listed there that are pretty tough, and it's kind of the luck of the draw or the unluck of the draw in this case. But yeah, should be fun. Start next week, so trying to get a lot of stuff done before then, and get ready for the sectional starting Tuesday.
Yeah, I look down south to see Evansville Bossy down in Class 3A, sectional 32 at Boonville. You got all those Evansville schools down there. That's always a dog fight.
Yeah, Bossy plays at Boonville, and they play. They'll have to get through Mater Dei or Evansville Memorial, probably both of those, just to reach the championship. So that'll be a tough situation for them. But yeah, that's always a good one. Evansville probably not overall maybe as strong this year in that area as some years, but that'll be a good sectional there in 3A.
Also, over all of our listeners up on WJOB up in the region, Crown Point, you've got the Bulldogs as they host the Class 4A sectional and taking on that Portage team that they beat earlier this month.
Yeah, they have a really good player. I've seen them a couple times. AJ Lux from he's going to Bellarmine. Senior, can really shoot it, and but they have really struggled with Chesterton, like a lot of teams have these last couple of years. Chesterton probably not as much on the forefront this year without Travis Grayson, who graduated, but they're still a very good team, 17-5. And Crown Point, even if they beat Portage, who's also a pretty good team, they would have to again play Chesterton, and then probably Valpo sitting over there on the other side with Mason Jones, who's a really good player, who's going to Ball State, and they're sitting over there with a pretty good draw on the other half of that bracket in sectional 2 at Crown Point. The good thing for Crown Point is they are at home in that sectional. That's a neat gym and in a pretty good home environment there.
I want to talk about some of these guys. A lot of IU targets. Flory Badunga I mentioned earlier, or actually I'll start with Trent Sisley, sectional 31. That's going to be at Washington, a great place to play. One of those great tournament venues, taking on Southridge.
Yeah, they're having a good season overall. I had a chance to see them earlier this year and then in the summer a few times, and looked like they were getting better as a team. I mean, that team's kind of growing up around Trent a little bit. He's growing up obviously as a sophomore now, but having a great season. They play, like you said, play Southridge. That's a single game at the Hatchet House on Tuesday, and then they would play the host Hatchets in the semifinal. So, that one probably sets up to possibly see North Davies in the championship game. And, that's kind of a unique story in itself. North Davies was, this champion in 1A last year and then moved all the way up to 3A by their own choice this year. So all these teams in their sectional can, probably try to throw it back in their face for choosing to play up in 3A instead of 2A. But yeah, I would still say, North Davies probably the favorite there, and Heritage Hills maybe sets up to see them in the sectional championship, and that would be a fun matchup. North Davies, that's a team that, Jalen Mullen, senior, I think he's got a possibility to be an Indian All-Star, but I'm not sure, that'd be a tough matchup for them trying to beat Trent Sisley and the Heritage Hills team. So that's an interesting sectional. I think North Davies the favorite, but Heritage Hills probably a clear sleeper type team.
Flory Bedunga mentioned up at playing for Kokomo, another IU target, but big time IU target, probably the best player in the state right now, taking on Lafayette Jeff. So they're going to get they're up in the northern side of things. What do you expect to see out of the Kokomo squad?
They should win that. I think they play. I actually had a chance to see them play Anderson on Friday night up there, sold out. Great crowd up there at the Anderson. Probably the only negative by some people was that it wasn't played at the Wigwam. But he played great. He had 9 dunks and really kind of dominated the game. And
did you say they played a game? They played a game at the Wigwam?
They did not play at the Wigwam. I think that's the only thing people were kind of wishing that that game would have been played there. But yeah, they play at their home gym, which is the old Madison Heights gym in Anderson. So yeah, they did not play it at the Wigwam. Hopefully people didn't misunderstand that. But
I was just looking at something. I said, "Oh man, did I miss a game at the Wigwam?" I was going to be awfully upset.
Absolutely not. They did not play there. But yeah, but Flory, he's a unique player. They're going to be playing at home and at Kokomo, and they should be favored to win that. Harrison out of West Lafayette is probably their toughest challenger there, and then Marion's sitting there on the other side. I had a chance to see that game earlier this season. Marion and Kokomo play each other, and Marion's got a Jalen Townsend, a big sophomore guard, sort of a guard wing type player who he gave Kokomo a lot of trouble in the first half of that game. But Kokomo, I think, pretty clearly a favorite. Harrison also is a good team. Ben Henderson is their senior guard who averages about 21 a game. But yeah, Kokomo, I think, playing at home, they have a bye into Friday night, so they would probably play Harrison or potentially Lafayette Jeff in that first game on Friday. But yeah, I think they're going to be in pretty good position to advance and move on into the regional.
Then Jalen Harrelson and versus Hamilton Southeastern at Carmel, another one of the IU targets.
Yeah, and they're like I said, they have a pretty tough. I put them in one of our tougher draws, although they do play Hamilton Southeastern, who's 7-16 in the first game. But then they would have to play Zionsville. Zionsville's has kind of been up and down. They're 14-7, but they have a Penn State commit, Logan Imes at playing guard, and then Nick Rehard, who's going to UNC Charlotte at power forward. They got beat pretty bad by Cathedral last night. Zionsville did. So I don't know. It's kind of and Fishers has a team that they're sort of they can be up and down as well. They're 13-11 now. They lost to North Central last night by 11, but looked like North Central handled them pretty easily. So you just don't know. Fishers is a little bit young still, a little bit definitely younger than last year when Harrelson came in as a freshman. He was basically playing with a bunch of seniors. Now he's kind of the experienced guy in a lot of ways. So just a little bit different team this year, and they've been very up and down, 13-11 right now, but he's been a lot of fun to watch all season. He's putting up great numbers for almost every game, and I think that will how he plays will basically dictate how Fishers does in the sectional. But they've got a pretty challenging draw. That HSE team played them pretty close earlier this year. Of course, they're rivals in the same school district, and that's never an easy. It's always a close game, it seems like, when those two play each other.
Dropping down a little bit in class, and actually Jack Benter, the Purdue recruit, with Brownstown Central. I know their first round game is going to be a cakewalk as they'll take on Pekin. No offense to the folks at Eastern Pekin, but you mentioned that would set up a potential rematch with the defending state champion Providence Pioneers, who are 17-4 this year, and Coach Lance Stemler, an assistant coach on that team, former IU player as well. So Providence still rolling.
Yeah, that would be super interesting, I think. And, I think there's a chance, a pretty good chance we'll see that game. That would be down at Southwestern Hanover in Sectional 46. But, Brownstown is just, they're very good, even beyond Jack Benner. They've got some really good shooters, some good players. I was very impressed with Providence last year as well when I got a chance to see them in the state championship. Ryan Miller, the coach there, does a great job with that team. They're sitting there at 18-4 now after, I think they've won. Gosh, they've only lost one game here recently to Silver Creek, but they haven't really lost since Christmas other than that game. So that'll be, that potentially could be one of the best, games on that Friday night. That Friday sectional semifinal night is always just fantastic night. You wish you could be like 10 different places, but, that would be a good ticket to get down there at Hanover and see that one. But and then you've got Southwestern Hanover. The host team is 19-3, and they have a really good draw. They're going to play. They have a bye into the semifinal. They'll play probably Henryville, but should win that, and then they'll play whoever comes out of the other side. So they're sitting there with a pretty good draw on their home floor. So Brownstown's got some work to do. That'll be a tough sectional for them.
Yeah, and also someone just mentioned. Kevin, thanks a lot. Pointing out Sharon Wilkerson still over at Jeffersonville. They're having a good year. You mentioned earlier they will be one of the teams that Jennings County has to go through down in southern Indiana. And that former IU, couple of IU players down there right next to each other. Sharon Wilkerson at Jeffersonville, Lance Stemler, an assistant at Providence. So that's kind of cool. But the IHSA this year seems kind of like college basketball in that there's not those dominant teams that there have been at certain times. And is there a little more parity this year?
Well, there is beyond Ben Davis. Ben Davis is 25-0 after last night, and they have really if 25-0 playing the schedule they do, they basically beat everyone in the top 10. So it's not a product of an easy schedule by any means. But beyond that, it's even in our area here, it's like you don't know, who's number 2 through 10, on a nightly basis. I covered Center Grove Brownsburg last night. Center Grove won by 1, but neither team, could shake each other the whole game. And that's kind of been the way it's been all year for a lot of those teams who are after Ben Davis. Even Ben Davis has been pushed a few times and had some close games too, but they're the team to beat. And then it's like, everyone else is relatively close to them. So it's not like it's a Ben Davis in a huge gap. I've heard some people say that. I don't necessarily believe that to be the case. I do believe Ben Davis is the best team, and they have no weaknesses necessarily, but I don't think it's a stretch. If somebody beats them, I'm not going to be completely shocked, but it depends on the matchups. There's even some of the better teams out there that don't really match up very well with Ben Davis, and you have to have an interior presence like Kokomo does, but you also have to have guards who can handle their pressure and shoot. And honestly, one of those teams is the first team they'll play in the sectional, and that's Southport. Southport took Ben Davis to overtime back in late November. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend or maybe the week after, but they have a team. They have guards who can shoot. They have they have an athletic wing. They just don't have depth. And they have not played great lately, but that's a game I would circle just to, kind of like that could be, upset special. You're sitting there the first night like, wow, Ben Davis is tied or, whatever the case is. But that's a team I think to look out for. I think Pike also in that sectional matches up somewhat well with Ben Davis, but they're gonna have a hard road. But there's a lot of teams out there that I think are capable of making a pretty deep run. And it's, I think, a product of that really good senior class in the state this year. There's just a lot of good teams that are older, because that class is very deep.
We'll certainly see, man. It looks like it's going to be a fun one, and I can't wait. Where are you heading this weekend?
There's not a whole lot of games. I'm probably going to go. I haven't decided yet, actually.
Take the weekend off.
I'm probably going to go somewhere Friday and not anywhere Saturday, but definitely be working on some stuff. I've also got a UIndy story. They're ranked 4th in the country in Division II, so I was working on a story on them this week as well, in addition to all the sectional stuff. But yeah,
some other things for people to go back and look at are the series that you guys run. The Coach is Confidential, great stuff. There's one in there in regards to, does Indiana high school basketball need a shot clock? I think you've got another one out. Yeah, which coach would you least want to face? I love that you can get those guys to talk to you about that stuff, because I think that is, I love that information. I love reading that stuff. And so I love that series.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you kind of, and some coaches, they're obviously not going to say what they feel if they have to attach their name to it, but they are able to kind of it kind of gives them an avenue to say what you want to say. And I thought the shot clock stuff was really interesting. Some of the stuff in there I hadn't really thought much about. And I think it was basically split down the middle. When I counted up the numbers, it was pretty well split on a shot clock. And then, today we had the coach you'd least like to face in a winner take all game, which there's some interesting answers in there as well. But we'll have another one, I think not tomorrow, but the next day, on the best players you've coached against. And I think we have one more after that. But yeah, just an interesting look, I think, sort of behind the scenes at what coaches are thinking.
Well, I'll be honest, it's some of the favorites. It's some of the best stuff in there to read, and that's not a knock on anything else. It's just good, unique, cool, great information. Make sure you follow Kyle. If you're not, you're missing out on all that's going on in the world of Indiana high school basketball and those that are going to be on the college scene soon. Kyle, can't thank you enough, man.
No problem. Thanks, Jim.
Get some rest this weekend.
Will do. Appreciate it.
Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality family. Metalworks, located just off of the square in Bloomington. Combination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art alongside a desire to be actively involved in the community. You can also find Metalworks at all the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants like BB's and the Allery and Cabello, Feast Market and Cellar, which Jay Billis just fell in love with yesterday. We've got lots more coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home.
All right.
All right.
I tried reaching out to K-Bro about doing a segment, but he...
Oh, damn! I never thought of that. What was that? Get ready to look up. Son of a bitch. Oh, yeah. Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy, the MAC is going to give the NCAA hell. They have 3 and are about to have 4 20-win teams.
Really?
Yeah, Akron is 19-9. Fucking oops.
It's fine. That's not that part doesn't go over the year. So
Toledo, who's in second, has won 12 straight games.
It's insane.
The top three teams, Kent State, 22-6, Toledo, 22-6, Ball State, 20-8, whom they just beat Kent State last night. The Akron Zips are 19-9. Wow, that's going to be a shame because I'm going to have to look those guys up. I don't know that they're going to be able to get in. I mean, they'll be in the NIT, but
yeah.
Great job, Michael.
All right. We're back in 30 seconds. You still have a couple more clips if you want to use them, both from Woody that we haven't done. So you can do those if you'd like. So, but leave it up to you. And we'll have one more break to take as well. Here we go.
Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this hump day, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. I mentioned the weather earlier that it's this time of year you're so busy that I literally do not lift my head. And noticed it was going to be 72 degrees today. I'm like, what? Shocking. But rain, of course, 68 tomorrow here. And then, 47. Typical. 72 to 47 in 2-day drop. Yeah, that makes sense. But oh well. What are you going to do? How about the Mac? Someone pointed out I want to give you credit. Oh, man. Pointed out. There we go, Kevin. Michael Lewis. Yeah, Michael was on with us earlier. And I need to pull that tweet up that I sent out a while back and re-add to it. I had a list of about 7 coaches that were born in Indiana, left off Scott Drew, but I'll add him to that. But the win-loss records, astounding. Well, some of them. Then you have Indiana's men's team at they're 19-8 or whatever, similar for the Purdue women's team. Then you got the Purdue men's team, of course, who has the great record. The Indiana women's team who has the great record. You've got Dusty May, who has just a couple losses. Michael Lewis doing extraordinarily well. Baylor is doing really well. I can't think if I left anyone off, but it was unbelievable. And I'm going to have to resend that out with updated numbers. John is absolutely the glue guy. He is more than that. He's the glue guy. He's the maintenance man. Whatever other good acronym adjectives we could come up for you. Rudy pointing out the strength of schedule the MAC has is terrible. Yeah, because once the season starts, the best games that they're going to play all year have been played because they get to go play against teams like Indiana or teams like that for some pay games. And then they're in their own conference, which is not extraordinarily strong, which will cost them. You look at the MAC right now, they're about to have 4 20-win teams. They have 3. Akron in 4th at 19-9 right now. They just lost their first game. They've lost 1 in a row, so they were winning. A lot of teams are winning. Ohio below them have won 6 straight, and they're 17-11. What the hell is going on over there? But you start at the top. Kent State, 22-6, 12-3 in the conference. Toledo, 22-6. 13-2 in the conference. So there's a game difference there. Then there's Ball State at 20-8, 11-4 in conference play, and getting the big win last night. It was over Kent State, wasn't it? I believe. But and they didn't squeak it out either. That was a solid win for Michael Lewis and his Cardinals. He's funny. He's doing all the commercials for them, getting the students out and getting them involved. But yeah, beating Kent State 22 and handing them just their 6th loss of the season. 82-70 yesterday. Ball State trailed at the half by 1. They win this one going away. They outscore Kent State in the second half 50-37. So congratulations. Just think of all the people we've had on the show. Dusty May, season's going great. Michael Lewis, his season's going great. Jay Billis, his season's going great. I think most of the people we have on, the season's going great. So good for them. Let's see. What does the rest of – I'm just curious about Ball State. It's going to be tough for them to get into the NCAA tournament, even though they've already won 20 games. I don't think the MAC will get more than 2 bids. I could be wrong, especially if they end up with 4 20-win teams. But it's just the MAC is a conference that there's just not room for 4 bids out of usually out of a mid-sized conference, because there's too many of the P5 teams that'll get in to squeeze them out. I forget how many auto bids there are, like there's 32 or something. Have to pull that up, but the remaining of Ball State's schedule, we'll see them. Dang it. It keeps going back to football, which is driving me insane. Come on, man. It's not helping me much. Here we go. So they shouldn't have very many games left either. There we go. 1, 2, 3. They played Toledo. It's a Muncie out. I don't know what a Muncie out is, but they've got Akron coming up as well. Holy smokes. They play at Akron. Well, their next game is at Eastern Michigan. So that's going to be a road game that they have to go win. Then you've got the Akron Zips and Toledo to finish out the regular season for them. And they'll have a shot. They're going to have a shot to make the NCAA tournament. That would be just absolutely awesome for Michael Lewis to do that. This was not a good team last year. I'm trying to remember if they had a losing record. But Michael Lewis, man, getting it done. Congratulations to him. Congratulations again to Terry Morin, as the Indiana women's team are your 2023 Big Ten basketball champions. Think about that for a minute. Not only did they win the Big Ten, they won the Big Ten in a year in which they've had to beat a top 10 Iowa team, a top 10 Maryland team. Those are 2 really good teams. But they also beat the ever-loving snot out of top 15 Ohio State and Michigan teams. That's what blows me away. I looked at the poll the other day, and Ohio State was like 13th or something, and I'm like, Indiana just crushed this team. That's the disparity. There's In men's college basketball, you can probably go about 9 teams deep. On the women's side, I'm going to go 5 to 6 deep of teams that can and will win the national championship. I've been making some bold predictions on here. I think Indiana women's team is in the Final Four. I was really high on Indiana men's team winning the Big Ten tournament until that performance yesterday. That doesn't mean that they can't rebound and do what they need to do. But I'm worried about them being able to come out and play 3 days in a row with intensity, with their minds right. 3 days in a row, focused on the job at hand. 3 days in a row, as that's what it's going to take. Who wants it more? And the concern is you look at teams like Northwestern. We know they want to win because we've seen them play hard. Not that we haven't seen Indiana play hard at times, but Northwestern is a team that was picked to finish 13th in this league, people. What preseason All-American players of the year do they have on there? So Indiana has to find that kind of moxie and drive. Matt Painter will have Purdue ready for the tournament. Now, whether they win or not, I don't know. Purdue is not a team I think is going to go far either. And they're a year away, I think, because of their young guard play. You don't go far with freshman guards. Maybe if they were 5-star freshman guards, you'd say, well, maybe even with that, they're still freshman guards, but they're not 5-star freshman guards. They're very, very good. They're going to be awesome. I mean, Purdue could be scary next year because Zach Edey coming back, maybe. Those freshmen will be there. So, we got plenty to get to. We got to take a break, John Boy. We've got lots more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're going to hear from, Mike Whitson, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we'll see what else we can scare up as we get ready for whatever games are on tap. And go over some of the games last night, big scores. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by Bubba's 33, whether you're in Clarksville or Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer, every item made fresh by hand daily. Great place to go watch the games with over 50 TVs. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right.
So what do I have? Just both
2 Woodson clips. 2
Okay.
Woody clips.
The defense and the
taking Jalen Hood-Schifino out early.
oh yeah. I wrote JAS or a JHS, but it looks like an A, and I couldn't read it.
Excuse me.
With 2 fouls. $72 today. Are you kidding me? I'll never see it.
On. I tell you what, I like it, but
I don't see it. I don't, dude. The last week and a half, I after the show, I end up getting out of this chair at like 6 o'clock. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Well, I mean, the stuff that all the stuff that I work on, and all that. It's just boom, it just keeps going, and then you look up, and you're like, holy crap. Don't forget today.
You may have to take not only trips for men's basketball, but potentially a Final Four trip for the women's team.
Dude, okay. That's a great subject for me to talk about when we come back. Because yesterday I was trying to 20 skids. Men, women. Let's see if I can get my calendar pulled up. Damn it.
We still have that meeting today at noon, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, just wanted to make sure.
Absolutely, baby. How exciting is that? Oh, lock that down, and I am gonna run outside out back and run some circles. Dude, that'd be like 2 in a month. Are you kidding me? After years of trying.
All right, 30 seconds.
Located at the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, offers a variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this expected to be warm Wednesday. At least here in these, what do you call this? South Central, Southwest?
I would say South Central Indiana.
They call it Southern Indiana for the residents, longtime residents here in the Bloomington area. I'm from Southern Indiana originally, so I call Southern Indiana down Floyd, Clark, Harrison County down that way. But yeah, unbelievable, 72. Crazy. What were we talking? Oh yeah, Indiana. We'll get this stuff out of the way. Mike Woodson met with the media after the game last night and pretty much laid it out. Poor defense. I mean, there's not a lot to say. To be honest with you, there's not a lot of dissecting that needs to be done. It's the numbers lay it out. But let's hear what Mike had to say about his poor defense played last night.
The 3-minute mark before the half is what set the stage for them coming back out at halftime. Even though we missed, some chippies to start the second half, our defense was non-existent, man. I mean, I just thought we didn't control the ball, something that we've been pretty good at, and I thought their guards had their way against our guards. I mean, Walker and Hungry, they were good, they were great, and we couldn't overcome it.
Well, yeah, they were good. They knocked the heck out of some shots down there. He was also asked about the fact of Jalen Hutchefino picked up his second foul. I don't remember how much time was left in the first half when he went out. I'd have to go back and look. But obviously, when you do not have a one-line point guard out there, it's going to affect the offense. And this is not a knock on Trey Galloway. He's a kind of he's definitely not a true point guard. He's a utilitarian man. He does a little bit of everything, but not having Jalen Hutchefino out there hurt. He picked up his second foul. Mike Woodson was asked about taking him out.
Listen, it's a long game. In the close games, guys, hey, it's a long game. We got enough players. That was my call. I would do it again if I had to do it the same identical way. I'm not going to let a guy pick up 3. I'm not going to do that. And, it cost us. There's been games we've done it. Fine. You guys never made that comment about me doing that. So, at the end of the day, it's a decision that I make. I make it all the time. It's a long game. 40-minute game is long. So a guy gets 3 fouls now, he's a little more conscious about really guarding. So that's why I took him out and went the other way.
And then related to that, Russell says, hits the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Based on his injury as reported by Jay Billis, which I did not hear this, I don't expect a lot from X to finish his season. Sorry. Yeah, again, I'm not getting into that guessing game because I do not know at all where he is as far as being able to run, cut, jump, where he is as far as how much does he want to risk by coming back, trying to come back for the very end of the season, potentially re-injuring himself because he is obviously looking to a future in basketball, and to re-injure that, well, that would screw his summer up. That would screw a lot of things up. You don't get picked by teams, whether it's in Europe, it doesn't matter. It costs you. So there's a lot goes into this, and a lot to be thought of. I don't know that he comes back, and if he does, how effective can he be? There's just so many ifs, ands, or buts about that. So I'm not gonna. That's why I'm not all hung up on it. It's just, it is what it is. If it happens, it happens. If he comes back and plays for Indiana, he comes back and plays. If he's effective, he's effective. But that's not something that anybody really needs to be thinking about right now, concern himself about. You have to go forward with the team you currently have. You got to do the Norman Dale. My team is on the floor, because that's who you got. And X is not walking through the door today. Maybe in a week or so, who knows? But it's not today, so there's no point in getting hung up on that, in my opinion. Let's see. Thank you. Steven agrees. Doug agrees. Russell says they should keep the sad events at MSU out of sports, in his opinion. Well, that's a tough deal to do when it impacts, a university. It impacts everybody there. As a matter of fact, one of the players I think I heard was supposedly on his way to try to pick up his girlfriend somewhere, and he had to hide in place in one of the suites at the Breslin Center. So, and your sports teams are the representation of your school in so many ways. So people look to that for healing, but they did for Michigan State last night. Won a big game, their first home game back. It's part of it, man. It's part of life. That's just part of life. And that's not going to change, but wish the best for everyone up there in that regard. Yesterday, I pulled up my calendar and I tried to start filling in the women's Big Ten tournament, the men's Big Ten tournament, the first, second rounds of the men's and women's NCAA tournaments. I've got them all color coded, and holy crap. I'm like, come on, man. The flights to, first of all, thanks again to Kevin Warren, because do not think that I don't want to continue to give great coverage to the women's program. The stupid Big Ten tournament is in Minneapolis again. Not tournament again, but let me say it again, which is ridiculous. All you're doing is cutting out the coverage. That just made it so hard for us to get to cover. It's expensive. and it's beyond what I'm going to drive. I'm not driving there for that because there's too much else going on. I don't have time. And it was a horrific mistake by Kevin Warren, but that would not have been the first. The Big Ten should not have allowed him to do that. That was done at his fancy. And it still drives me absolutely insane knowing that we have to go up there for the Big Ten men's tournament next year. Just utterly ridiculous, but I digress. Trying to cover everything. At least the men's tournament is in Chicago. The week after that makes it doable. Then you got the NCAA tournament, which hopefully the men's and women's teams will be on different days because there is a possibility that some days they will play at the same time as they will their final home. No. What time? What is the I remember right down. They have there's a game that definitely crosses over, and I can't remember. I wrote it down yesterday. One starts at 4, one starts at 4:30. Maybe it's a tournament game. I can't remember. There's so much. It could be the Big Ten championship game. Let's see. Is that the women's Big Ten championship game is at the same time as Indiana men playing Michigan at home, I believe. Yeah, 4:30 and 4 o'clock. So you're going to have a little crossover there. Fortunately, the Final Fours are in Dallas and Houston, not terribly far apart. Not that I expect Indiana's men's team to be at the men's Final Four, but that allows you to at least attend that. And I do expect the Indiana women's team to be in the Final Four. And I'm not kidding. They're going to be a number 1 seed. I think that, boy, I don't know that I can say they're the best team in women's college basketball, but I don't think there's any that are better. I don't think South Carolina's better. They haven't played the schedule Indiana's played. That's for certain. And had they, Indiana would have had their first number 1 ranking, as I said earlier. What's sad? South Carolina has been ranked. They currently have the 3rd longest streak in the history of the rankings behind UConn and I forget who the other one was, but what a time for that to happen. The Indiana women's team would have been number 1. Crazy. But yeah, how about the UConn women? Got beat by St. John's last night. See, there's a difference between going to Iowa and losing, if that were to happen, and getting beat by St. John's. I don't think they had lost to St. John's, and I don't even remember how long it had been. Five Left says he doesn't think the defense was a joke. He thinks the rebounding failed Indiana at MSU. And they hit tough shots. They did. Well, but defense, rebounding, good defense begets rebounds, especially offensive rebounds. When Indiana allowed 10 offensive rebounds, Five Lefts, that turned into 13 second chance points. You're not, who are you guarding when you're giving up 10 offensive rebounds and you're getting out rebounded like that? You're just, I don't think your head's in the game, obviously, but they've got to pick up and go on. So you have to let that one go. Yeah, there was no offense other than Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hood-Schifino. You had some early action from Trey Galloway. So there's that.
2 minutes.
Big games tonight. Who's on schedule, man?
Let's see. We've got number 20 Providence at number 18 UConn on FS1. Number 6 Virginia taking on Boston College. It's on one of the streaming networks. Tulane taking on number 1 Houston on ESPNU, trying to defend that number 1 ranking. And number 2 Alabama taking on South Carolina on ESPN.
So the number 1 and number 2 teams are in action tonight, and neither of those 2 teams are going to make. Houston's the only one that will make a Final Four out of those 2 teams, and I'm not guaranteed that they're going to make the Final Four. They haven't been tested, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow, Thursday. John, our schedule's been so jacked up. Normally Bob Kravitz is with us, but he was on assignment today. Of course, the Hall of Famer Rick Bozich normally with us, also on assignment today. But John, how about the schedule for tomorrow?
That's right. Tomorrow, Dustin Schutte back with us after his assignment, of course. Rick Bozich will be coming on with us tomorrow in place of Kyler Staley, who came on today. Chris Denary joins us again. Hopefully we don't have any of those weird remember that weird sound his situation was making last week? Hopefully we don't have to deal with that with Chris Denary this Thursday. And then who am I forgetting? Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts will be with us. Oh, and Dylan Sin. So we are loaded tomorrow. All sorts of stuff going on tomorrow for Indiana Sports Beat.
All right, sounds great. Man, I can't thank you guys enough, as always. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Of course, again, thanks to Kyle Neddenriep and Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com. Kyle Neddenriep, of course, the Indy Star. Make sure you give both of those guys a follow. Go out and have yourselves a good day, and make sure you hit up our sponsors, because without them, we're not here to bring this content to you. So I hope you guys appreciate it. Whether you're listening on YouTube, hit the subscribe and like button. And otherwise, you guys up in the region listening on 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJRB, the voice of the reason. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Everybody down in Evansville on ESPN 97.7 The Ref, always the right call, and 89.9 WBRO, as we continue to add stations to our list and continue to grow. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a great one. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.